everyone. It's the Second Act Show, and we're just kind of jumping right into our show today with our wonderful guests, Barbara and Lupe, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But it's me, John Tarnoff, and I have my co-host, Carrie Hannon.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. John, good to see you.
Thank you. And today we are the, I don't know if we've done this one before, we are the George Burns and Gracie Allen of Second Act careers.
I'm going to take it. Good one, John. I like that. Well, welcome, Lupe and Barbara. So happy to have you guys on our show today. This is such an honor.
We are so thrilled to be here.
Excited.
So I'm going to just do a quick intro on you guys so everyone knows who Barbara and Lupe are, and we'll talk about Second Act Women and their venture and how it came to be, et cetera. So Barbara and Lupe are the founders of Second Act Women in Denver, Colorado. Barbara has a 29-year career in marketing and PR, starting in the shopping center industry, diversifying into broadcasting, where she worked for iHeart Radio, CBS, and Gannett. And Lupe is a 26-year PR professional turned four-time entrepreneur, social justice advocate, author, and documentary producer, championing women's issues and breaking down female ageist bias that lingers in corporate America and society, you think? Anyway, we're excited to have them on the show, learn more about them and about the Second Act Women community. So welcome to you both.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We're excited to have the conversation about second actors, by the way.
Yes. So we'll just kind of jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about how this thing started, because I know this started during the pandemic. Tell us about how you guys got together, what prompted this, and let's start with that.
Yeah, I will actually say it started pre-pandemic. In 2018, it started because I couldn't get hired. Full stop. So I decided that I would pull an idea off the shelf that was on the shelf for 5 years, and that was to create some sort of company to help business women. It had no age to it, but simply to provide events and programming for business women. And so after having not been hired, I decided to launch Women's Business Week, was originally the name. And in doing I'm a marketer, and so I like research. So in doing brainstorm sessions with our community of women of all ages, really, but mostly because I was 51 in 2018, mostly the women who were attending these brainstorm sessions, of which I had 3, were over 40. And so I started hearing something resonating with me. And it wasn't until about the 3rd session that I had my aha moment. And after even meeting with another friend about what is the niche? What is it you're trying to achieve? How do you want to help people? What's the pain points? And, I started hearing about women over 40 having trouble with connecting, networking, re-careering, encore careers, starting companies, lack of resources, those kinds of things. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. That is it. I'm going to put Women's Business Week back on the shelf. I kept all the URLs because that's how it goes. And, I was lucky enough that my business partner, you mentioned she's a 4-time business owner. A couple of those times were with me. I was lucky enough to have her, and we had consciously uncoupled, which, by the way, was the reason why I was looking to get back into corporate America. I had been an entrepreneur after exiting corporate America in 2011. In 2018, I was ready to get back. So we consciously uncoupled, and she attended some of the brainstorm sessions, and she couldn't give up more than 20% of her time because she'll tell you what she was working on. But, that's really how it started, was being the target audience and realizing that at 51, having international awards in shopping center marketing, which there is a such thing, I couldn't get back into corporate. And so let me do something about it. Let's find out, let's figure out what we can do to help other women.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in the same vein, so interesting. So I've always been on the entrepreneur side. I've never been in corporate America. And so, when at the time, I was actually an associate documentary producer on a short subject film that was kind of taking a look at the intersection between culture and identity. And I've been working on that project for like 5 years. We had been on tour, had the conversations, and I think it was just getting to a point where I wanted to do something different.
By the way, that was at the same time we were working together too, Lupe. You were like,
you're right.
All
Exactly.
kinds of things.
Yeah. And for me, I think it was so funny. I actually wanted to get into corporate. So unlike my work wife, she wanted to get back to corporate. I wanted to get in. And I figured, oh, hey, I've got like 20 some odd years of experience. I've done, started 4 companies. I've been, PR exec. I've, done video production. It's a slam dunk. Who's not going to want to have me, right? And it was quite the opposite. It was all the Dear Jan letters instead of the Dear John letters we were getting. And, at the time, Barb was getting, second act off the ground and kind of starting to put, form to ideas. And what she wanted to do just struck a chord because I was personally going through it. And as we started to talk to more women in our community, found out that this was a bigger problem than what we thought. And it wasn't just ourselves going through it. So like she said, we got off the sidelines and decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
So was it ageism particularly? Did you think that was the big stumbling block, or what do you think was the big barrier for the two of you?
For me, Carrie, I couldn't understand why I wasn't getting the interviews, let alone, getting hired, let alone the interviews, I should say. I could not put my finger on it. And I even went so far, and I will be bold enough to say, to make sure that I had my picture on my resume so that if they're trying to fill in a DE and I initiative, then here's this Black woman, that has an extreme amount of experience in marketing, public relations, event development, and things. And I thought that surely could get my foot in the door as well as my acumen. And I didn't figure out, frankly, until it was months later after having larger conversations with people that for me, I looked back and I thought, oh gosh, it was the age, because some of the interviews I did get, you could tell by the questions and some of the code words that they would use, in a sense, you could tell, like culture fit. That was usually the Dear Jan letter, you're not a culture fit, but you could tell by some of the questions that I was getting from some people, and I could tell audibly that they were younger than me in some instances, and they probably thought, well, I'm not going to have this old lady who, for me, only 51, be working underneath me or with me or what have you. She's not going to know tech. She's not going to know this, that, and the other, which is quite the opposite. Right. But for me, I didn't discover that it was age or think that it was age until later. I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah. And I think for me, I think it was a little bit of that as well too. But as I looked back at the job descriptions that I was applying for, I started to see a pattern. Like I started to see, even though I was applying for like director level, like they were looking anywhere from like, a span of 5 to 10 years or 12 years of experience. And here I was bringing 20 plus years of experience. So I think little things like that just at the way that the description was written, like high energy and all these words that people use and throw out there to be very intentional on who they want to attract to apply to these. And so here I was, still high energy, as you can see, but like obviously bringing a deeper wealth of knowledge and experience that then they, in conversations like, Barb was saying, code words that you would hear or comments that they would say where you would be like, oh, they're going to think I'm too expensive. They're looking for someone younger, not a culture fit. We're going in a different direction, whatever. Like all those were included in the letters that we got, which led us to believe, hey, you know what? It's not what we're bringing to the table. It's probably comes down to who they're wanting to have at the table. And it's not, a 40 some odd year woman.
Yep.
So fold this now into second act women. You're both in this situation. You're both kind of realizing you're up against this. How does that then translate into building a community group to help other women who are facing these very same challenges, which is now something that's really universal?
Well, I would love to say that it was turnkey. But it wasn't. Surprisingly enough, I think we were at a point in time where, we were having an earlier discussion before we went live about the fact that people don't talk about their age. They don't talk about getting old as a positive. There's, it's so nuanced in society right now where people look down on, getting older, which is so crazy because it's an everyday normal occurrence that's going to happen to all of us, right?
Right.
But what ended up happening was in 2019, we came out and said, hey, we've got this cool conference that we're going to launch. It's called BizCon. It's going to be exclusively business lifestyle, conference for women over 40 and 50. And it was like crickets.
It was like, wah, wah.
Yeah, it did not land at all with our women. Our women were like, what? This conference is for just us? Like,
and that means they have to admit their age because they're attending at a conference for 40 and 50 years young. Yes. And what's interesting is the companies, right, Lupe, who stuck with us, Microsoft and Colorado Biz Magazine and the local iHeart radio stations, they stuck with us because they saw the value in us. Yeah, we, in what we were trying to achieve. But the women, it was like, it was painful.
It's like being outed for being old, right?
Yeah. And I think association.
And you're great marketers, so you realized if you could make it second act instead of an age, it might make it more palatable, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so it took a little bit of education. It took a little bit of, breaking down some of those barriers, creating safe spaces, which is really the hallmark of what Second Act Women does, and helping almost women shift perspective and start to value the beauty, the power that comes with age and only age, and start to create those conversations. And then event day, we were able to pull off a great event that then became, I think, the launching pad for what Second Act Women truly has morphed into, which is a full-on pro-age membership community providing professional and personal development for women over 40.
Yeah, so tell us
more about what you're offering.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah.
Yes, well, what don't we offer? We just went literally through a branding exercise because the company, during the pandemic, we had to transition like everyone else to virtual, right? So everything, here we were, we had created a live event company that was based off of going to Chicago and Dallas and Austin or, Atlanta and all these places, because that was our intent, was to take this BizCon event national. And then we're stopped in our tracks, which, by the way, at the same time, we're running a crowdfunding campaign literally a week before the world shut down. And so what happened was we had to figure out, what is this company now going to be about? And what is the future? How can we better serve, knowing that the pain points of the women are that they don't have the startup acumen because their wheelhouse may be marketing or their wheelhouse may be accounting or technology, but they don't know about QuickBooks and all these other things. It's about being aged out of the workforce. We basically had to take the pain points that we had ascertained from listening to our women and figuring out what direction we were going to take the company and how we were going to help transform and provide solutions. And so with that, we just created this beautiful community that provides events and programs like workshops. We're launching master classes soon with a new Compass system where we're going to have you do your own assessment of your business, work, and life career to see how it is you can grow in this adolescence life stage. We have socials here in Denver, but we have a live and a virtual membership platform where we're providing tools and resources, community and connection. And gosh, a job board is in beta with our partners at Western Union. We're in partnership with Random House, and we have a book club. So we're doing what we can live, and eventually live will also go to other cities, but live here in Colorado and virtually and if we're doing conferences and retreats like we are now bringing back, those will be hybrid events because we recognize now that our community is global. I mean, our Facebook community of 4,600 and growing is about 50% Coloradans and another 45 to 50% North America, and about 5% or 10% are global. So we have something.
But you offer sort of support as well as really hard taxing, both for entrepreneurs, women who say, hey, you know what, I really want to do my own thing now, as well as those who want to just make a career transition, maybe to another part of the corporate world. So I like the way that you just really have two pathways for people.
Yes, that's exactly it. There's the two pathways. And then Lupe will tell you, we also make sure that life and pro-age topics and communication and convos are also happening at the same time. We're providing you the upskills that are expert led, whether it's through Lupe and myself and others that are in, various. Go ahead, Lupe.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, I mean, you summed it up. While we have the designated pathways, Carrie, I think, at the very cornerstone of it all, it's the dynamic woman. Like, I mean, women right now are not in a box. Like we might be doing a corporate gig, but we're also maybe
don't put baby in a box.
Yeah, right. We might be starting up, or we might be, to your comment, changing careers. And so we truly, through our work, we let women really kind of navigate the resources, the community, the tools and education to kind of help meet them where they're at, and where they want to go. And yes, while we, do focus on the entrepreneur and the corporate woman, to Barb's comment, life is a huge part of it, because what we want to try to, impart on our ladies is that, a 40, 50, 60 plus is another life stage. Middlescence is another life stage, just like adolescence. And so there's a lot of things that are changing with us, a lot of things that we don't know about because we haven't been there, done that quite yet. But to be able to have access to a community that has open, candid conversations from women that have been there, done that, that can share, impart ideas or tips, or even be a support system for other women going through this stage is like priceless. Not to quote MasterCard or anything like that, but it is. I mean, to be able to finally be able to kind of be part of something that's
we would love them as a sponsor,
created for you, by you, and supported by you. Right.
But the thing is, I write in this space a lot, and John has as well with his book and so forth, but women really face so many challenges in the workplace. We've made some strides, but jeepers, I mean, look at the earnings gap. It is really not going away for many women, and the opportunities and for Black women, Asian women, people of color. I mean, this is an issue. And I recently wrote a column this week, and I'm not trying to tout my own thing, but I hit a chord. Wrote about a study that looked at 25,000 performance reviews. It clearly showed the bias in performance reviews in the words used for women, for Black women, for Black workers, Asian workers, and so forth. It was really, and people of color, and it just showed how deep this bias is in the corporate world. And even your performance review, it reflects your opportunities to grow. And I have received so many comments. If anyone on this looks at that article, they'll see these really nasty comments that I receive emails as well. And I'm sure you two get some of this.
Not yet, but it's coming.
But they're like, men are the one discriminated against. It's not women. Women are getting jobs they don't deserve. Women are getting promoted who don't deserve it. And it just shocked me. And I don't know, John, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit? I was a little.
Well, not to get too political, but I think we are clearly at a juncture where there is this pendulum swing backwards on that's really dialing back a lot of the advances in civil liberties that we have been working for the last 50 years. And remember the ERA, right? Right. All of this has been really a struggle. And we are, I think, really way behind where we thought we would be. And just a kind of quick note about my old industry, the film business. This is women directors as a percentage of all directors making feature films. This is still a hot button issue. Up until very, very recently, I think the figure was that 4% of films of major releases were directed by women. So
4%.
Right. I think we're doing better now, but this is across the board in our society a continually big problem.
And you know what it creates? What you just said, Carrie, those results that you just spoke about, you know what that creates within the woman, which is something that we try to work with as well. A lot of the women say they want personal growth help too. And a lot of it is because of the lack of confidence, the imposter syndrome that they're feeling, which is, is just through the roof with how many women who have succeeded in their careers, in their businesses, who are now feeling undervalued and feeling as if they can't be heard. And that imposter syndrome of feeling like they're a fraud, when in actuality, and doubting their abilities, when in actuality, they have all the abilities to be, to do, to live life in full color. But stories like that you're reporting on continues to compound in our heads, in our mindset, and continues to keep us down. Ageism is still the only ism that can still be laughed at on the stage of a comedy store. Think about it. You can laugh about, your old grandmother, grandfather falling, breaking a hip, whatever it may be.
Right.
Well, that's perpetuating the dialogue.
SNL does at least one or two ageist skits every year.
Do you remember the Molly Shannon with I'm 50, and she had on pants that were up here, and she was only 50 in a big bouffant, and that was 50. That was Golden Girls.
And there was Alexa for boomers. They did a whole thing about Alexa.
Yes, they did. They did.
Look, it's very fun. It's funny stuff, but it's ageist. Right?
You're right.
It's acceptable.
But Lupe and Barbara, you guys also talk about lookism. I mean, you kind of talk about the
and brandism.
The intersection of these two things, which I know is something you both work on with your community to kind of get beyond that. And Lupe, what are you have some ideas on that you kind of help?
Yeah, I think this is where, we've got a lot of work to do. And I love, shows like this. And I love the work that you, John, and Kiri are doing, because now more than ever, we need to have these conversations front and center. Society hasn't caught up to the fact that we're living much more dynamic, rich, healthier lives, that, 50 is the new 50, that 60 is the new 60. This is what 49 looks like. This is what 55 looks like. And I think what happens
this is what 70 looks like.
And that's
there you go, John.
There you go. There you go, John. And the fact is that people get in their heads and so tied up based on archaic ideas of what it means to age. It wasn't until 100 years ago that people weren't living past 55, 60. And now all of a sudden we're living to 80 plus. And so it just, through our work, we're trying to remind women that the 50 of today isn't the 50 of a couple of decades ago. And so own it, be grateful, because, like my work wife often says, every day you live on this earth is a privilege. And so whether you hit 60 or you perish younger, the fact that you're here alive and kicking, you can make a difference. And so through our work, we try to remind women to have these conversations and appreciate the woman that's looking back in the mirror, because if society isn't going to meet us halfway and adjust their ideas about what it means to aging, then we got to be out there front and center, reminding everybody that, hey, we're not going to just be put out to pasture. We've got a lot more to give.
And about the lookism too, it's about the gray. A lot of our ladies were having conversations within the community as the globe was opening up about, do they dye their hair back? Because they had let it grow gray. They had even in some instances cut it to meet the gray, right? So it could grow out, because we were in it for so long. And then suddenly some of them are liking their gray, but the lookism comes into play. So do they dye it back? Do they keep a streak? Whatever it may be. And so we work with them and our life coaches that are a part of our community on owning it, because yes, it's really sad that men can go gray and it's considered sexy.
Debonair.
Yes. And then women do, and it's suddenly we're old maids. Remember the card game, Old Maids?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
I'm owning my color. I am owning every inch of it.
I just want to say that I think there's maybe it's just me. I think there's a change. I think we're seeing this a little bit in the media, where the gray is being styled and it's being rocked. And I think that this is now a look and a way of going that people are starting to understand is not bad it's good. It's an alternative, and it's not about the color. It's about what you do with it and how you wear it. Right.
Well, and you know what's sad, John? You know where that came from? It was the Zennials who started dyeing their hair gray. So sadly, it took younger women to start graying their hair because it's cool, for then suddenly us to then be able to own that color.
But I think that's okay, because it destigmatizes it. One way or another, it destigmatizes it, and it takes it out of the association of gray being old to just gray being a color.
Exactly.
Well, I want to shift back to something else here, because our time is clicking away. I love the work that you two have been doing, and we talked about both pathways, but for me, with the entrepreneurship is something that I really love. And I know I wrote about you two in my new book, and I just have had the opportunity to meet several women. Thank you. Several women from your community who I've interviewed. And what I love is being part of your community. They each have told me that it has given them the strength to believe in themselves and to be able to launch and to say, I can, and also to reach out to others in your community to ask for help. Like, hey, I need a lawyer for this, or I'm looking for someone to look at this contract, or, and I know it's still growing, and these are going to be more and more of these, but the women I spoke to in your community were success stories, but they weren't without challenges. It didn't just happen on a women, they really had very interesting stories. So could you just share a little bit with John and our audience here and myself of what you're seeing? Like, what is, are we seeing success stories, and what's the key?
Yeah, we are definitely seeing success stories, but I think you're right. I think that success story is painted in all different shades. And with that comes those bumps and learning curves. What we're finding is that obviously there was the great resignation fallout. And I think also, unfortunately, the falling out of women over 40 being unemployed as a result of COVID, just, I think, brought to light a whole bunch of challenges, of which one of them is a lot of corporate women going into entrepreneurship. And corporate women typically will be focused, if they've been in corporate America, usually have a tenured experience on the job and will be managing one department. And what they're finding is when they get into entrepreneurship, some of the challenges that they face is trying to be everything. Like, I've got to be the accountant, I've got to be the marketer, I've got to be the salesperson, I've got to be, the house cleaner to keep my office clean, as like everything under the sun, right? And so what we find is that women oftentimes struggle trying to wear all the multiple hats without truly having the understanding of what it takes to fulfill in those particular areas. And so what we try to impart on our women is recognizing that you don't have to know it all, that there are resources available within our communities where they can tap and actually partner up, trade services, barter, or whatever it might be. But the idea being is that you can only, you don't have to be everything to everybody, and success is imminent in recognizing that. And so I think what we are seeing is that women are finally starting to recognize the importance of kind of creating that A-team around you to help you really kind of level up at the pace that you can. We also try to teach our women that you got to charge your worth, and making sure that you can put the time to be able to say, hey, you know what? No, I may be a new business owner, but I've got 20, 30, 40 years under my belt doing something comparable. And so that there has to be some translation between past experience and current kind of efforts. But the idea being is that, what we're seeing is that women are finally starting to kind of see the value, start to own it, start to build for it, and create some pretty cool companies that we are proud to have in our community.
Fantastic. What a great way to go out.
Yeah, we love it. We're so proud of all of our women. And we always joke because we're like, we couldn't have invited them even if we tried. Like, we attracted just an amazing group of women that seems to continue to invite more women, because I think we're a group that understands that there's true power in women supporting women. Gone are the times where we have to step on each other and, have to advance on each other's backs. Like, no, I think we're a community that's all about, hey, if you could do it, I can do it. And if, I'm struggling, let's do it together. And that's creating the success and just this vibe within our community that's just priceless. And we love it.
Well, John will have this in the notes, you guys, but what's the best way for people to find you?
At secondactwomen.com. They can also find us on our Facebook community, Second Act Women Over 40-50. as well. But they can land on secondactwomen.com first, and then they'll be treated to a plethora of information. And I have to tell you, I have to add on really quickly to what Lupe was saying about the transitions and the positive of what's gone on. That's happened within our own house. So within our own house, we were trying to handle and do everything and everything under the sun. Jack of
all, but master of none. Or something like
that was us. And we, thanks to grants and things that we have recently gotten over the course of the last year or so, we've been able to put that money back into our own community, frankly, into our own economy, and hire experts in their fields to help us with our brand strategy, our accounting, our editing, and those kinds of things, our event planning. So we've also heeded the advice of the people that are leading some of our sessions as well. And I think that's important for people to know that if you just can't do it all. You just can't. It's not possible. If you want to grow a sustaining company, you've got to ask for help, which is the one thing that women do not like to do. But ask for help. It's there.
That's huge right there, right? That's kind of like I was going to ask about the keys to building a community. And I think asking for help is probably the number one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. This has been phenomenal and energetic and informative. And it's been an honor to have you guys on.
Oh, our pleasure. You guys rock. I love it.
Thank you. I'm just going to put up the card for our next show. Moving along, later in July on the 21st, we have our great friend Tim Driver, who is the founder of retirementjobs.com and age-friendly employers. And I'm really excited to hear what Tim is going to have to say. And then beyond that, we're going to be talking to Justin Smith from Savant Wealth Management about financial planning and continuing to work as a financial planning tool. And then Mona Morshed from generation.org, who has got some fantastic research to share on intergenerational cooperation, et cetera. So looking forward to those two shows.
Onward.
Harry, anything else you want to say before we wrap?
No, I just want everyone to check out Second Act Women, because I'm a real believer in what these two are up to, and it's really important that we have more of these kinds of things around for women who are really looking for this next step, and we all need to bond together and make it happen.
Excellent.
Love it.
All right. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you guys on the next Second Act show. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.